You're listening to TehachaPod with Key Budge, Corey Costello, and Greg Garrett.
It's TehachaPod time again. Key Budge, Greg Garrett, Corey Costello. Guys, how are you?
I'm doing good, Key. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Yep, Corey and I are going to be coaching coaches pitch together. The announcement was made. TVRPD wore us down. And we're going to coach together. So that's just thought we'd make that announcement very quick.
When TVRPD was in here and, Corey Torres, Ashley Krempian, every time I sign a kid up for something, they're like, you're going to coach, right? And having the time to do the full thing. But then when you reached out and said, hey, do you want to do it together? I'm like, okay, I can go in halvesies on this and help out. So, yeah.
Well, the pay's good, right? Pay's good.
That's right.
Right? When you're volunteering.
It's all about volunteers.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes.
That's awesome. Good luck, guys.
We'll see how it goes when I'm doing, Morris Buttermaker and throwing inside, pitches at these kids.
How old
Bad
are the
News
kids?
Bears reference, folks.
How old are the kids?
5 and 6.
5 and 6?
Yeah.
Oh, I think you might need your wives to help
And it's
out.
coach pitch.
Hopefully they do.
Yeah.
For me, it's my grandson. So, we'll be recruiting like crazy.
The best part is the snack, the little snack afterwards and the Capri Suns, that kind of stuff.
My question is, it is coach pitch, but that inside of the plate belongs to the pitcher. So, if this kid's a little too, can I throw a brush back?
You're going to drive these kids away.
It's my zone right there,
We've gone off.
I would hate to be Corey's kid.
We've derailed like one of the trains down coming up the pass, and we haven't even started the show.
I know. I can't wait, though. It's going to be fun. Looking forward to it.
I just thought I'd throw that out there real quick because we had a city council meeting, and we kicked off the meeting with volunteerism. So I just thought, hey, I'd throw out the volunteer aspect that we are with TVRPD. But Greg, we had a city council meeting, and we kicked it off by recognizing a hashtag Love Tehachapi, one of our volunteer groups.
Amazing group of individuals. I learned last night there are up to 150 individuals that volunteer officially within the Love Tehachapi organization. We have a lot of other volunteers that just every day, day in and day out, do something. But Love Tehachapi, 150 volunteers. They were recognized at the Kern Council of Governments award ceremony. It's an annual ceremony that takes place. And Mayor Smith honored them also. We can't say thank you enough.
Yeah, and the last time they came out with that 150 people, you picked the neighborhood. That was where the new soccer field is going to go with this new grant that went in with the park, and they went and worked that south side of Valley Boulevard, and there a few went on the north side. But they were out there just cleaning up and helping and handing out free books to kids, and it was very motivational to watch. But it was a sea of Love Tehachapi shirts hitting the neighborhood,
right.
And it was kind of
it's more than just cleaning up. You talk about handing out books and helping individuals. It's neighbors helping neighbors in all aspects, A to Z.
And there's a long term aspect to it as well. We have our code enforcement officers are sort of trained now to realize if they identify a person who's got an issue with yard maintenance because medical conditions, age, they automatically turn around and say, hey, I have this yard for this person. And not only do they do it once, but they'll actually go back and maintain these places knowing that this, elderly, gentleman or elderly lady can't do it themselves. So it's pretty cool too. It kind of helps, keep the neighborhoods clean and just help people who really, don't have access to certain things.
And churches are involved, which is the best part.
Yeah. And it's neighbor helping neighbor, and government we just play a support role and give them safety gear and trash bags, and our public works department comes by and picks up those bags and properly disposes of them. So it's pretty cool.
It's at the root of a strong community. When you rely on government, and we rely on government more and more every day, Key, and that's government cannot pick up the tab. It just means more people and more taxes. But when you have people volunteering, the core or the root of strong communities, those are volunteers.
And we'll throw a little love out to our police department. Chief, this was kind of born out of Chief Krager's idea.
That's right.
The Neighborhood Improvement Project, which was the north side of the tracks, the neighborhood by the airport. That's where it all began. Love Tehachapi was created out of that. Yeah. And they said, let's keep this momentum going. The volunteers did. So that's pretty exciting.
And just the thought of bringing those giant roll-offs into a neighborhood, because sometimes people don't have a pickup truck to take a mattress or a couch or a chair to the landfill. And that's just been an eyesore in their yard or whatever it may be. So bringing those roll-offs, partnering with waste management helps out as well. put those in the neighborhood, help them actually load the stuff, drive around and throw it in the back of a pickup or a trailer and get it out of their yard is a big help to bring that service to them.
And their next project, they're going to be working on Earth Day, a special cleanup project, and we've got them working with the Parks District. So they're coming up with special projects to help out at the parks, and then we've also got some other groups, Salvation Army, that are going to come out on Earth Day, and Miramar Realty Group teaming up together, Starbucks, and doing some litter removal from some of our trails and access areas.
And then our Public Works Department helps out, Waste Management with the roll-offs, Kern County with the gate fees at the landfill. So it's a great collaborative.
It is. So what else did we cover in the meeting that's noteworthy? That
well,
we
a
need
lot
to
of
pass on?
items, and it was a very positive meeting, so I appreciate everybody's engagement with the City Council or the public. But just a couple other items. At the airport, we have several times during the year, it can get dusty from the wind, helicopters, those sorts of things. So with East Kern Air Pollution Control District, we have received a grant. So we'll be putting down a kind of a layer of, they call it gorilla snot.
I was going to say, it's my favorite name. Please say it. Please say it. It was in the staff report. I was looking for it. I said, yes, it's in the staff report.
It's a thick substance that creates a crust.
It's like glue almost.
Right.
Yeah.
Elmer's glue, maybe?
Gorilla snot,
I don't know.
I guess.
Gorilla
I don't
glue. Yeah. Anyway, it creates a crust so that it keeps the dust down. So that's really a good thing out at the airport.
And that's, like you mentioned, helicopters, because we don't see a lot of helicopters take off. But when we have an emergency situation with the fires, and the fires have been over in Lake Isabella, and they utilize our airport for that area to refuel and get those birds, doing the basic maintenance after so
even
many
the
hours.
Utilities. I mean, Southern California Edison's going to be flying around here the next couple of weeks, and they'll use our airport to refuel, or the gas company is the same thing. So a lot of the aerial surveillance, they'll use our airport as.
We're
as
fortunate
a
to have Kern County Fire Department based here with 2 helicopters, between Tehachapi and Keene. So we're happy to be able to participate in that. And then a couple other things. I know we have Don Marsh with us today, coming online with us, but with Caltrans, we have created a maintenance agreement for Tucker Road. Now, that doesn't mean maintenance of the asphalt and the concrete. It's really litter removal. So right now, California is looking for partners, and we have stepped up, and we want to start litter removal on Tucker Road. That is State Highway 202 through the city of Tehachapi. So we're going to enter into an agreement with Caltrans for litter removal. So that area is going to be kept a little nicer, which is a really good thing. And then notice of completion, for Snyder Avenue, right? That we've talked about that many times on the show, Key. Snyder Avenue between the Boulevard, Tehachapi Boulevard, and Valley. That project is complete, and man, did it turn out nice. But Jay and Don worked so well together with Andrew and everyone. Super excited about that. So perfect segue into with Don Marsh here, our Public Works Director.
Yeah, we want to welcome back to the show Don Marsh, our Public Works Director. Don, welcome back to TehachaPod.
Thanks, Key. Glad to be here.
It's nice to have you here because we talked about the council meeting, and a couple of these items were, part of your, the daily work that you guys have been doing and what you will be doing. Let's first kind of just quickly recap the Snyder project, because the Snyder project, I know that Jay had made the presentation that it was, what does he call it?
A couple different grants.
But the couple different grants, but what does he call it? The punch list was completed and he can sign it off. But that was something that you guys worked on together over a period of time to kind of coincide the timing of these, of the reconstruction, rebuilding of that area?
Yeah, there's a really good example of us working together. We, Public Works kind of is responsible ultimately for maintaining the streets and roads, and Jay's department, the engineering department, they're really good about getting grants and going after Caltrans money to do some of these more busy streets, the connectors and the other main roads in town. And so we can use the grant money for some of those. In addition to that, we had this sidewalks project on Snyder, curb, gutter, and sidewalks. And part of that sidewalk project was we were going to need to tear up part of the road to do the sidewalks. And so we said, hey, let's kind of move up the priority of the Snyder Road paving work and coincide that with the sidewalk project. And even though they're 2 separate grants funded by 2 separate grant programs, we were able to combine those, and it turns out that we ended up getting a really good price on the paving because of that. Ended up the same contractor won both projects, and turned out to be a fantastic project.
It was seamless. It fit like a glove. It was perfectly executed.
You mean we tore up the roads once and not twice? And,
Exactly.
I mean, that's some planning. So that, I mean, I know there was a little inconvenience for the parents at school, but that was temporary. That was so mild in comparison. I think people are just raving about how nice it is to be in that area and get their kids to and from school.
There was actually a third mode of synergy, so to speak. We had planned on doing some additional road work in town through another funding source, which was our general fund. We had budgeted money to repave Davis Street and Green Street, and so we coordinated the timing of those two paving projects with the Snyder project. Turns out the same contractor won all three of those. He could just roll from the sidewalks to Snyder paving to the Davis Street paving to the Green Street paving. Ended up saving us a lot of money. Believe it or not, there's a lot of expense in contractors moving in and moving out and moving in and moving out. So we saved all of that. He had one mobilization and one demobilization, and it ended up being a fabulous cost savings effort.
We had the city torn up all from end to end, didn't we? But it was worth it, right? As they say, break an egg to make an omelet. And boy, did we make a beautiful omelet.
I want to go back to the funding sources piece because it's important, especially with Snyder. And, you know, the state has taxed gas and everything and then promised to bring money back to the communities. And do they? Slightly. They do in a way, but there's a lot of sort of sometimes prerequisites, and most of those do with traffic volume. So there's not a ton. So Snyder gets a lot of traffic. Tehachapi Boulevard, which was redone a few years ago, gets a lot of traffic. And so some of these streets do qualify for these grants, but a lot of the time your neighbor streets, Davis Street, Green Street, which we funded out of the general fund, do not. So I think it's not, it'd be great to get a bunch of grant money from the state to repave everybody's neighborhood streets, but the state doesn't allow us to do that. These grants are specific. But then we've actually, like you pointed out with the Snyder project, sort of above and beyond budgeted for neighborhood streets as best we can.
Yeah, it's something different that we've started doing. That was the first year of it last year. We're continuing that as long as we can afford to do it. So we have, grant funding is through a program through Caltrans. Mm-hmm. It's called the Rstp funding, Regional Surface Treatment Program. And we get grant funds for that. Like you said, that's things like Tehachapi Boulevard, Curry, Valley, the major streets in town. But we also get gas tax money, like you mentioned. We can use that for residential streets. And then we have general fund money, which is just money that the city receives through sales taxes and property taxes and things like that.
Yeah, and you talk about grant money. Grant money is not automatic. Doesn't just come to us, right? It's competitive by nature, right? We have to compete for that money. And so we have a team at the City of Tehachapi that puts together great grant applications, and we have to compete with the other cities. You know,
and we have to execute. We have to execute. And if you've proven that you can't execute, you don't get more money.
And then we're audited. Yep. You know, it's this never-ending cycle, and we're happy to be able to perform. That's what we do.
I think Jay pointed out recently, he said, I think we're winning so many of these grants for these road projects. He says we're getting triggered and audited so much because Caltrans and the folks that are overseeing these programs are like, oh, Tehachapi won again. And so they're checking, you know, and they're coming back with nothing. They're delivering, as Don points out. But yeah, with the success comes a lot of accountability as well.
And I'll take that all day long. Day long.
Yeah, exactly. And then I think the other sort of transition to the important stuff that's because, you know, people do enjoy when the big roads are repaved because you drive them the most. But a lot of the time it's that road right in front of their house, right? Mm-hmm. It's that. And we have some newer neighborhoods that have, maybe they were recently slurry sealed like we had last year, and that's to help preserve the new asphalt to keep it new in good condition. But then we have a lot of older roads that were built, you know, even as you tore up Snyder, you found out, wow, they did that when they built this thing. You know, they found some interesting engineering, you know, on those road projects. But you've kind of figured out this plan to help fund more local roads, and not only that, but basically index every road in the city.
Yeah, so in 2021, we really made a serious effort to kind of put together a long-term plan for upgrading and improving the condition of streets. the first step in that was actually done a few years prior to that, which is to go around to every single street in town and evaluate the condition of the asphalt. There's an actual score that was developed. This is a standard practice through across the industry to evaluate the streets, and you develop an actual score from 0 to 100, and it's called Pavement Condition Index. And that, based on that, then you can rank all of your streets. And you can generalize. What we did is we generalized that into certain conditions like poor, satisfactory,
failing,
think, yeah, those kinds of things. So, but nevertheless, you end up with an actual score. And then what we did is we took that, a little bit of art to it, and combine that with the amount of traffic on the road. So obviously, even in residential streets, certain cul-de-sacs, for example, don't get a lot of traffic, but other more main residential streets, through streets,
if they bypass a main street, then they get more traffic.
Then
right?
there's more traffic, right? So we kind of prioritize those based on the pavement condition index and the amount of traffic on it, and then took that and put together a 10-year plan of what we're going to be doing for the next 10 years. In addition to that, we came up with a plan for the grant funding as well. These programs like Rstp are repetitive, so it's every other year. We can plan for that. Those are the major streets. In addition to that, every single year we estimate we're going to spend a certain amount of money out of the general fund and use that for the residential streets. In addition to that, we have SB1, which is a gas tax, and we can do certain treatments to the road. That's where we did slurry seal. Yeah. That's where the money generally comes from for things like slurry sealing and potholing and that type of work. So there's a lot of different angles to this.
A lot of information just now. There's going to be a test. Did you remember all that?
I got it all.
Yeah. You got it all?
Okay. I asked the questions. Okay. I knew it in advance.
All right.
I did my homework. I did my homework on like the failing grades, and
I'm not sure that's happening.
Satisfactory, poor.
That's why Don's in charge of public works.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, when we talk about the different things that are going to take place, so when you slurry seal something, you're extending the life of that road?
Yeah, I get that question a lot. A lot of people ask, well, that street's in good condition. Why are you repaving it? Well, we're not repaving it. Basically, a slurry seal is just that. It's a seal that goes over the top that extends the life. So doing preventative maintenance on streets extends the life of it. So we can do a slurry seal on a road after, say, 5 or 6 or 7 years, and that will extend the life another 10 to 15 years. Whereas if you do nothing, in 10 years, that road's toast.
Because asphalt cracks, and then moisture goes in the crack and infiltrates the base, which is the worst thing that could happen, right?
Yeah.
And so you want to stop the moisture from getting into the base of the road.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Water is the enemy of asphalt.
And when you fog seal, you're adding a little moisture content back to the asphalt. Is that correct?
And you're sealing up those cracks.
And you're sealing it at the same time.
And sometimes we'll be more aggressive with a chip seal, which will do similar work and seal some of those cracks and really keep the water out.
Yeah, there's hundreds of different versions of slurry seal that can be done. Slurry seal is essentially like an oil with very fine gravel in it. But there's all different kinds of treatments that we call surface treatments that can be done to asphalt to extend the life. And again, a lot of the streets downtown, for example, they're too far gone. The slurry seal won't really help, or it will be marginally helpful. But the idea is to take your good asphalt and preserve it with some sort of surface treatment like slurry sealing to extend the life of it, so it doesn't get to the condition that a lot of our streets are already in.
Yeah, and our environment in Tehachapi is pretty harsh. It gets cold and hot. So you get this freeze thaw, you get this expansion.
Yeah, believe it or not, these roads expand and contract as in the summer they're heating up, and it expands, and you might even see a lot of those cracks actually close up because the asphalt is literally growing. And during the winter, it contracts. When it gets cold, it shrinks up, and those cracks actually will get bigger. So
this is a big part of, we've talked a lot lately about, maintaining our infrastructure, and these sort of things are big reasons how to do that with the slurry chip seals and that. There's a couple local projects I'm excited about because they actually we talked about the Snyder repave. These upcoming local projects actually sort of branch off of Snyder, and there are a couple roads that needed some TLC, and they're actually programmed to be done here, in the next year or next season, basically when it becomes favorable to do serious road work.
Yeah, in the coming months, actually.
Yeah.
So what we have programmed for this year in 2022, our fiscal year ends in July, or at the end of June. So for this fiscal year, we have planned to do Anita and C Street. Again, kind of finishing off that work that we started on Snyder, and finishing off that area a little bit. I mentioned before that, we use the pavement condition index as well as a little bit of voodoo of the amount of traffic. Anita gets a lot of traffic on it.
Middle school right there, yeah.
One of the other factors is kind of trying to keep these paving projects close to each other so that we don't have, I'll do a block on this side of town and then do another block on the far end of town, and the contractor ends up basically having to jump around all over the place. Yeah. So we try and do complete streets and maybe finish off neighborhoods so that the contractor is kind of working in one area instead of jumping around.
Less impact, and also it's good for the finances piece, right? It keeps it
it makes it more efficient from the construction perspective. So that's for 2022.
What's going to take place on Anita and C?
Really, what we do is we grind off about 2 inches of asphalt, and then we lay down a new 2-inch layer of asphalt. In general, that's what we're doing on every street, and that is going to be the case.
So the boundaries of Anita are from Denison to Snyder, correct?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
And then the boundaries of C Street are from where to where?
C Street is also from Snyder
to Pepper.
To Pepper, correct.
Snyder to Pepper. Okay, yeah. C Street
and
is a long street, so I want to make sure we
correct one thing. Anita actually extends all the way through to C Street.
Oh, okay.
That's our plan.
That's even better.
Of course, we got to get pricing from contractors and see how much the real dollars come back. We've estimated it, but we need to get the real numbers.
The price of oil is going through the roof.
Yeah, we'll see.
Here we go.
We were very fortunate last year because of the bundling of some of these types of projects that we got good pricing.
It was kind of cool to watch. I mean, we Greg and I went out when we were doing green, and just the efficiency of that. I mean, you talk about contractors. It was truck after truck coming in with the asphalt into the machine.
It was
and
really cool.
They just laying that. I mean, it was a pretty, because time for them is money, right? They've got a contract and they need to get in there and get it done so they can get paid.
Yep. Yeah,
and they were using the base from Golden Queen or Silver Queen, the Soledad Mountain over here across the hill,
pink kind of stuff.
Yeah, so they were using that base to bring in to use on the project. So it was really cool.
Yeah, that project too was fantastic. It was the first time that I'm aware of. We actually had public works crews, our in-house people working alongside with the contractors, assisting with things like traffic control.
And doing some concrete work.
And we did a lot of concrete work ahead of time in preparation for the asphalt. We actually ended up coming back later and doing some of the what's called raised degrades. So all the manholes and valve cans that are in the street, we did that work after the fact with our own crews. So again, all in the efforts to maximize the dollars spent on asphalt and work that we don't really have the equipment or the skills to do, but we do have the equipment and skills to do some of the kind of ancillary work that supports that. So.
Good synergy.
Yeah.
So what about Elm and Maple?
Yeah. So again, continuing with our 10-year plan, that is the next set of streets. We're doing Maple all the way from Mill Street all the way through to Mountain View, and then Elm Street from Valley all the way south to Applewood, basically, or Cherry Lane. So again,
those are the plans for this year. We're going to see about, budgeting. Well, we budgeted for it, but once we go out to bid, we'll see. We can do a little more or a little less.
Once you mention it on TehachaPod,
costs.
it's funded.
No,
And once you talk about it on the podcast, it is funded.
That's the problem. That's why my little disclaimer just now, right? Oil is, last time I checked, is $100 a gallon or a barrel.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. By the summer, who knows?
Yep.
Right.
Kind of looking forward to, with this 10-year plan, it can be somewhat overwhelming with the amount of work that needs to be done. To give you kind of some relative statistics, we have in the city of Tehachapi alone 163 lane miles of asphalt. So that is one lane is 12 feet wide. If you extend out the total square footage, it ends up to be 163 miles of roadways that we have to maintain. Mm-hmm. So, and a good portion of those need to be repaved.
And it sounds like you've walked all 163 miles with your indexing and, you and your team.
There has been eyes put on every inch of it.
Well,
yes.
and this is an important, this is an important local control moment. I mean, honestly, a lot of communities have to sit around, especially smaller cities. They have to sit around and wait for those grant funds to come back to them and just hope that maybe this road triggers a funding piece, and then that's it. That's all the road money they'll get. But to really have this ability to sort of realize that we're not getting all the help, like Greg pointed out earlier, right? We're not getting all the help from the state government and to get all this money to redo our roads. So we're taking this step and really bringing that in-house as much as we can to take care of the residential streets and just control our own destiny when it comes to our infrastructure, which is important. Roads everybody uses them, and it's one of the most, suggested topics when it comes to funding for any municipality.
But also a moment to remind the listeners that if you see something, you can go to our website or call City Hall and let us know. If there's a pothole, we want to address that as soon as possible because that'll start deteriorating quickly. So you are the eyes and ears. The public is the eyes and ears really day in and day out.
Yeah, absolutely. The pothole patching and that kind of thing is, we do that on a daily basis. We have guys that go out and do that year round on an as needed basis. So, these bigger projects obviously take time to plan, and there's maybe 1 or 2 weeks out of the year. Pothole patching goes on all the time, and we get a lot of people calling in. Hey, there's a pothole over here. There's a pothole over there, and we try and jump on those things pretty quick.
Well, just like graffiti removal.
Yep.
Right. We want to snap that out of there quick. Right. If you see graffiti, you let us know. We'll be there within the hour. Quite frankly.
Mm-hmm. And that goes to the point of with a limited crew. And Don's guys trying to spend as much time as they can working on potholes. When some knucklehead does do a graffiti thing, that takes time away from repairing the potholes because and there was a one of that happened recently, and great job on the cleanup, by the way. I drove by it this morning and there ain't no indication that it was ever there, right? Yeah. That's the beauty of a good graffiti removal, and it doesn't happen very often around here. But again, when it does, it just takes away time and resources where it could be used, to benefit people more.
But we couldn't do any of this without a healthy budget, right? There are matching funds or components. If we don't have a healthy general fund, then we couldn't do half of what we're talking about here.
Yeah, it does help a lot. And keeping in mind, we try and do more with less. So we do. There's essentially 4 guys is what we have in our streets division for Public Works. They handle all. Pothole patching, the sidewalks and curb and gutter repairs and replacements, every street sign in town, all of the street markings like stop signs or stop bars, the stops on the pavement, center lines, all of that kind of work are done by those 4 guys, as well as any other improvements that we have going on downtown or anywhere else for that matter.
I want to remind everybody, too, that if you do see that pothole or something that wants to be addressed, you can go to the website, but you can also utilize Text My Gov. So if texting is easier for you, we have our own text number, and that's 661-441-3844. Text the word hi, and then you're in. Then just text pothole, and then the form will come right to you via text message. Fill it out, send it, and then it goes right through the system. So if texting is your form of communication. We're making it easier for you to report those potholes.
Yeah, there's plenty of ways to report those things, either through text.my.gov, website, or even just call City Hall. My number is on the website. You can call me directly. Whatever method works for you.
Let me bring up one quick thing, and I know we kind of touched on it a little bit, but one of the big comments whenever we talk about a project dealing with roads or sidewalks is fix my road. And then, but these grants, when we talk about grants, because we kind of went through it very quickly, they're very specific in what you're able to do and address. So as much as you would love to continue your road matrix and go beyond and add more roads to your next season of repair, you're limited based on what the grant tells you you're able to do.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not just free money or a pot of money that you can use for whatever you want. When we apply for grant money, it is specific to a project. So we're going to pave Tehachapi Boulevard from Mountain View to Mill Street, or whatever the scope of the project is going to be. And when you apply for that, you say this is how much we think it's going to cost. We get approval for that. We don't get just a check that says, okay, here's $2 million to go pave that. We actually do the work, and then we submit for reimbursement for that work. We pay the contractors ourselves through city funds, and then we get paid back from Caltrans.
So we don't get to go spend extra somewhere else and say, oh, we'll go get this cul-de-sac because we got an extra extra $100,000 laid around after that $2 million. No, it doesn't work.
Caltrans isn't dumb either, because if it ends up costing $1 million, we get reimbursed $1 million.
Yeah.
If it ends up costing $2.5 million, we get $2 million. So if it's under, you don't get the difference, and if you're over, you
pay for it.
And the boundaries are very precise. If it's asphalt money, you cannot touch the concrete. The boundaries are to the inch.
Yes.
You can't do anything outside of the boundary.
Yeah, and there's limits also on what you can actually use the money. Most of the time, you can't even use it for concrete or curb and gutter.
That's right.
It has to be for asphalt. This Rstp money, it's by definition regional surface treatment program. Yeah. It's for asphalt.
When people use the term navigating the bureaucracy, this is exactly what we're referring to. Like these sort of things, being able, and you have to have a grasp of it to understand it, to make sure you actually use the money right. If not, they come back and say, you didn't do this right.
In their defense, in Caltrans' defense, all these rules and regulations are there for a reason.
Somebody broke them.
Because people play the game, they take advantage. And so all of these things over the years have kind of compiled onto each other, and they've got these very strict rules. And as long as you can learn how to play within the rules, then you'll be successful. And I think we've done a fantastic job of playing within the rules and getting our fair share.
And it's everybody from identifying the grants to, when it comes to the grant side, to working with Kern Council of Governments and the Regional Transportation Committee, which Jay Schlosser, our Development Services Director, is on one of those boards to help get the funds steered to different communities throughout Kern County, and then writing the successful grants, securing the funding, and then delivering. So you're engineering the project, you're hiring a contractor, and then you're getting the work done to the specifications allowed, and then getting reimbursed. So there's a lot of moving parts and all that, and I probably missed about 5.
But these funds are all the tax dollars that get siphoned off, go to Sacramento and sit there, and they're going to go somewhere. And we have to work very hard in order to bring that back to help rebuild our infrastructure.
Don't forget, this is our money.
Right.
This is our money that the state has taken, and this is just us getting that back. For whatever the state decides you can use that for.
Within the parameters that they provide.
Yeah.
Well, because you're in competition with these grants, City of Bakersfield, City of Los Angeles, San Diego. There's all of these huge cities that are fighting to get those dollars back to work on their own projects. So the fact that we're able to get and bring back, money to rebuild our infrastructure is a big deal, because there's some communities that don't get it at all.
And being engaged in relationships and going to meetings at night, and all of those things that matters, because cultivating that whole culture is helping us achieve these goals that we've set for ourselves.
Yeah. And I was on Davis Street yesterday, just going by Circle K to get some coffee in the afternoon, and turned on at Davis Street, and I'm like, Man, this street is so awesome because I remember what it used to be. It was really rough.
It was third world for sure.
It was
really
cobblestones
bad.
in some spots.
Every time I drive on Snyder, I think the same thing. Like, wow, I mean, what a transformation.
Well, especially like the bulb outs that were done too. I mean, to make it a little wider by the crossings to the middle school, and it gets a lot of traffic because of the schools.
Makes me proud.
Yeah,
I've heard more compliments about the Snyder project than I have with a lot of other projects because of the volume of parents.
Well, we have a lot of regional traffic.
Right.
People from the outlying areas where the Stallion, Bear Valley, Golden Hills coming into the junior high or Saracoso or
there's one junior high,
school,
and that's
and we're happy to do that. What about street painting, Don? So the striping and the bike lanes and the stop bars, all of that. Can you talk about that for a minute?
Yeah. So, talking about grant programs, we ended up getting a grant awarded to us. I believe it was last year, and we're going to be executing that here coming up in the next few months to do essentially all new striping. It's the lines on the edge of the road in the center. They're called striping. It's paint or thermoplastic paint that gets put down. It's called striping, and then the stop bars, the place where you stop your car and it says stop. That's called a legend. Anyways, those things.
Don now is engineering in his head.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So we're
I don't
gonna
want to get too technical.
keep it at our level here, okay?
Anyways, all that paint on the asphalt.
there you go. Yeah.
We got a grant for that. We got about $200,000 to redo all that paint throughout the city, and so we're going to be going out to bid for that work in the next few weeks, actually, and you'll be seeing that all redone throughout town.
Nice new fresh paint. I love it. Yeah. I wish somebody would create or invent paint that didn't dissipate
Lift.
or with the grindings, the snow plows, the sand.
Our environment's pretty
traffic.
rough on the.
It's a never ending.
Yeah.
It's perpetual motion.
And we've tried several different methods, and of course, there's different types of paint to put down. And I think we narrowed in on what works best for us, but it doesn't last forever. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Greg gets genuinely excited. Like, he is not just saying this on the podcast. Like, we'll go out and look at projects, and he's so...
I'm geeking out about this. I'm like, I do.
Loves, like, this is a legitimate emotion, loves this stuff. Because it shows a lot for the community. It's a great showcase.
So visual.
Yeah.
It's so visual, and you're driving down the street, and it's smooth.
Yeah.
It's so nice.
And it's safe. And I'm so proud of our public works department and our engineering department and the contractors that every contractor is not the same. And so when it comes together nicely, it just makes me very happy.
Yeah.
What other things do you guys have going on? You get such a huge department. You've got many sub divisions within your corporation there at Public Works. But I know recently we had a freeze, and we had water pipes that freeze, but that's mostly on the homeowner's side. But there is a service that you guys do if we do get any more of these winter freezes before we officially warm up.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. When we had that hard freeze about a week and a half ago, we went out and we shut off people's water. So you can, at any time, whether you're doing some plumbing work and you need your water shut off or you have a water leak, you can call City Hall, and one of our guys will respond. We will be out there, usually, quite frankly, within a few minutes. But it might take a little while for him to get out there, depending on what other calls they're on. But that one day, we had 36 water shutoffs from people with frozen pipes.
And that was a requested shutoff. It's not because they didn't pay their water bill. No. That was a shutoff because they needed assistance, right? Yeah. There was a pipe that broke or something had to be fixed. So we shut it off at the meter. We don't want people touching the meters. We'll shut it off free of charge. And then you can do the repairs on your private property, and then we'll come and reinitiate the water service.
Exactly. And so, like I said, usually we're out there within a few minutes of your call. Literally, you call, the front desk at City Hall gets on the radio and calls our water guys, and somebody's dispatched out there. And depending on what else they're working on at the time, they might have to finish up shutting off somebody else's water, and then they'll come out to your site and and shut off the water. So that day, like I said, we did 36. On a normal day, we might do 4 or 5. But our guys were running that day.
Well, one other thing that you guys, we could talk about public works all day. I mean, this is one of those never-ending topics as many different things that you do and your crew does. But recently, you guys were inspecting the storm drains.
Yeah.
And that was pretty cool because you actually brought in a company that had like remote cameras that
Pretty
were
cool
able,
little robot deal.
It was super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had some concerns over one of the storm drains on Tehachapi Boulevard. So we called in a service from Bakersfield, and they came and cameraed the storm drain. And yeah, that's exactly what they do. They run a little robot down the storm drain, and they video that. And then when they're done, they send us a file with the video, and we can take a look at it, or they report to us if they find anything. But now we have that for our record. And again, that's kind of the beginning of a preventive maintenance program that we're going to be starting for our storm drain system. So our plan is to do a little bit of that every year and make sure that storm drains are clean, that there's no flooding that's going to occur because the storm drain's plugged up with sticks and rocks and
we actually found a
else.
street sign down there somehow. Not sure how that happened,
Yeah.
but there was a street sign.
You never know what you're going to find down there. Who knows how long that's been there? It's probably been there since it was built. Or
Alligators, you never know.
probably a lot of skunks and cats and who knows what.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, everything you guys do, it's you guys have your hands in so much of what goes on around our community, the true boots on the ground in making sure that the city of Tehachapi is looking good and running good.
And working in concert with City Hall, in concert with Tehachapi Police Department, it's just a well-oiled machine.
And putting a plan together, a 10-year plan, a vision of, how things should be repaired. And that's a big deal.
Really trying to shift from a reactionary mode to preventative. So preserving the life of our assets and doing preventive maintenance. It's just like your car. If you don't change the oil regularly, it's not going to last very long. If you don't change the tires, you're going to end up with flats. So, doing the preventive maintenance for the long-term health of those assets, whether it's the sewer system or the storm drains or our water system or our streets, it's all kind of the same mindset.
Yeah, we're planners at the city at every level, whether it's financial planning or residential planning or public works planning or police department planning, and we empower people to get the job done.
Yep.
Well, Don, is there anything we didn't touch on today that you think might be important just based on as we're approaching spring or something that the folks should know? Or you're going to save it for the next time we bring you in here?
Yeah, I got to leave something for next time. So
There you go. He wants to come back.
we covered a lot.
That's right.
Don is kind of giddy.
Yeah.
He's enjoying this, I think. Yeah.
Not many people are like, hey, Don, I'm going to sit down and talk about road matrix with you for 40 minutes. So, this is an exciting opportunity to talk about all this.
But
stuff.
it excites me that he's excited.
Right.
Public Works, we do a lot of work kind of in the shadows. We don't like the limelight for the most part. We just like to do our job, and we like to do it well. And hopefully the results speak for themselves.
And I want everybody to do me a favor too, being out with the guys a little bit, especially during the storm drain inspections, kind of seeing what they were doing. When you see the crews out there, slow down. There's cones out for a reason. There's stop signs for a reason. I think I saw 2-3 people just blow right through the work zone. And so that goes for whether it's our guys or contractors. Just slow down. You're not, you just don't want to put those guys in chance of getting injured at the traffic accident.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I got a chance to talk with Dale Miller the other day. Dale's usually in the sweeper out cleaning the streets, and sometimes I guess he'll run a plow when we have those snowy conditions. But he was just talking about the guys, his team members, and he's got some young guys, and he's one of the true veterans that's been on for a while, and he just gets excited about talking about work.
Talk about a perfect example of somebody that is actually prideful and is 100% committed to the work.
And he was in the tractor with the front broom yesterday, doing the bike path because we had so much rain and snow, and sometimes the mud from the railroad, the guys will drive on the bike path and it gets muddy, and so he was running Tehachapi Boulevard on that tractor with the front broom and
he
did cleaning that off.
All of the bike paths yesterday. Yeah. Swept Antelope Run all the way from one end to the other.
That's awesome.
Same thing.
As someone who uses those a lot, it's so appreciated because it's great when they're clean, and it's tough sometimes when they're muddy or there's debris on there. So it's awesome.
No doubt. Yeah. And then Denise, last night at the City Council meeting, we announced that we're applying for a new ATP grant. So coming up here soon, I'm going to take a pause.
March 30th.
Okay.
No pause needed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
we got it.
Oh my God, I don't remember.
We're prepared. We went over this, Greg. We're prepared.
March 30th at 5 p.m.
Thank you, Key. Thank you, Key.
At the TPD community room.
Yeah.
As I give Corey the eye. But that's all about improving the city, right? So it's about sidewalks. It's a bike paths, those sorts of things.
Pedestrian, any kind of non-motorized,
right?
Improvements that we could have, accessibility to things.
Yeah, we're always looking for ways to expand what we have and improve the mobility throughout town and throughout the city.
So we're having a workshop, hosting a workshop. But if you see something, again, email, call, let us know so that we can put that in the queue.
And I did, it's funny that you say that. So I was driving and I saw.
Was it actually funny?
Well, it's funny you brought it up.
Okay.
It's just the timing of it. It's all right. You're gonna derail me. That I saw on two different occasions people that were in motorized wheelchairs, the rascals, and they were in traffic because there was no sidewalk on that side, and where they had to access. So I was able to snap a photo and give it to Denise and say, Denise, does this help? And this is where it was. And she goes, yeah, these are the things that we're looking for. Here's someone that needed accessibility, and they were kind of cruising, along the on
we
the
don't
asphalt.
need scooters in the street.
No, and they're obviously trying to access the side of the street, didn't have sidewalk. Gave her that location. She goes, okay, I'm going to put this down on the list. So those are the things that they're looking for. Is is there a bus stop where the kids get out and they step into mud and dirt?
Right.
And
that doesn't mean the project's going to happen tomorrow, but that means we have it on the list so that we can continue gather information so that we can hopefully creatively put together a grant application.
I had someone stop me on a dinner on Saturday night and was bringing up some of those, and I'm like, these are all awesome ideas. Email the projects at TehachapiCityHall.com and get them on the list. Formalize them for me or write a letter like, please formalize this because it'll be very important. They're great suggestions.
And Denise said that the written form is still very strong with these people that approve the grants. Because
there's nothing like a letter.
Right, because what they're doing is they're looking at what we provide, but when they hear it from the public and they see it in the written form, because they're not going to come to Tehachapi, they're going to stay in Sacramento and approve these grants. We have to paint the picture. So we can do that through our own written word through the grant application, but the supporting documents that come from the public are what help paint that picture and let that person go, oh, okay, they do have a need.
And visuals help, as you pointed out.
And pictures, she'll use that picture in the grant applications. And look, here is a person actually in the street.
The famous one was the railroad safety, right? The one we used that was the mother and a friend carrying a stroller and a kid over the tracks, crossing far down the tracks from the actual crossing. And because it was more convenient, and they're carrying a stroller over the railroad tracks. I mean, that was a great photo, and that pretty much got that project funded.
Yeah. So that's the kind of input we'd like to get. It helps us, put eyes on it, and it opens our eyes too. Maybe it's an area that we haven't identified, but again, help paint that picture. And that's going to be March 30th, and at 5 p.m. to Tehachapi Police Department Community Room on C Street by Curry. And Denise would love to have you come out to her workshop and give that input. So that's for future grants, and it might be 2 years before we actually are able to work on that. But it's right now it's in the conceptual phase, the application phase, before it can be approved and then go to engineering, design, and construction. So it's a big process. This is government work, and we have to work within the time constraints that are there by those organizations providing the grants. So
that's right.
Well, guys, anything else that we need to bring up? We've a lot of information provided today between City Council and some of the things that Public Works has going.
A lot of good information.
I think so. I think the more
and Don's keeping some stuff for next time.
He is. He's holding a couple aces up his sleeve there for for the next go around.
And then I want you to create a test for Corey, so we can test him to see if he retained any of this.
No problem.
Okay.
After he sleeps tonight, we'll test him tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, don't test me. Don't test me soon. I'll remember.
No,
it,
he's
but
like
yeah.
a duck. He wakes up every morning. He's like, oh, what should I do today?
Well, Don, thanks for taking the time. We really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.
And folks, if you've got a question, something that maybe we talked about today, and you'd like to get a little bit more information on it, or it prompted a new idea, you can send that to us at media@TehachapiCityHall.com. If you've got information you'd like to provide to that project that Greg talked about that Denise is working on with her workshop, her email is projects@TehachapiCityHall.com. But if you end up sending it to me, I'll make sure it gets forwarded there. But that written word and photos really help. We appreciate your time, and we'll catch you again on a future episode of TehachaPod.
TehachaPod is a conversation about Tehachapi designed for the people who live here or who would like to know more about this mountaintop community. If you have a question you would like answered, email media@TehachapiCityHall.com. We will try to answer it on a future episode of TehachaPod.